And I've literally had businesses say, I only work with other businesses that do nonprofit work. Like, oh, okay, cool. Well, I do a lot of nonprofit work. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Behind the Booth. I'm Jade, and with me, as always, is my award-winning producer, Heather.
And on this channel, we talk about wild stories from Comic-Con vendors because Jade is a Comic-Con vendor. She goes to Comic-Cons all over the country and craft fairs and all kinds of stuff. She sells her products. She made her own product. She designed this whole thing. It's a stencilgami. If you don't know what that is, you have to look at our links because we can't describe it every single time we do a podcast episode because we have these like scripted things we say at the beginning of every podcast episode and we mess it up maybe 80% of the time. So
All the
we
time.
can't explain her stencilgami every single time, but you got to go check it out. And if she's going to be at a convention in your city, please come say hi to her. She's a very bright, very colorful booth. And I mean, if you can see her right now, you see the shirt she's wearing. Like she's just a very bright, colorful person. So come say hi to her. We'd love to meet all of you. But today we're actually talking about something a little bit different than a convention. And it's kind of it's not a hard subject, but it's a weird subject to talk about because you're like, how did you put it? Like how to like get yourself out there before you actually start making money kind of thing. She's talking about like fundraisers and nonprofit events. So where do you get started with that kind of stuff?
One of the best ways to, when you're first starting out, in my opinion, to get your work out there, especially if it is like a design type or something that's never been seen before, like my stuff with the, three-dimensional fish and stuff like that, is to work with nonprofits. One of the things with nonprofits that they tend to almost always have are auctions or raffles,
Hmm.
and they need items donated for those things. So sometimes you'll see things like someone will donate a PS5 or whatever, or they might donate some wine glasses and some wine. Especially if they do something like hand carved wood bears or something like that. They'll donate those things. And the more things they have at an auction, the better their fundraising is because you'll come across at these things. And if you've ever been to one, um, you'll see the same things. You'll see things like maybe a trip somewhere or, wine is very common. Or you'll see something like I saw this a lot, like those little, like, cracker fruit basket things.
Yeah.
I can't remember what
Like
they're called, but they're
charcuterie
like
baskets.
yeah, a charcuterie basket, that's exactly what that's called. So you'll see those types of things, and people will either have one or can't go on the trip or are, and maybe an AA or don't wanna have alcohol in their house, or maybe it's somebody who's not over 21 who can't bid on that. So having different things, especially pieces of art, most auctions want art because it's a one of a kind thing, so they usually want, like, a single piece. Um, People are always willing to part with money for art because there's this idea that you have one or two ideas with art. Either it's not worth anything or it's very prestigious to have in your home. So, and people love art as a talking piece, especially that attend these things to be like, oh yeah, I got that piece at a fundraiser for, children that have books that are written for them and, whatever it happens to be that the fundraiser is, or I got that one at No Kid Left Hungry and we raised, $20,000. They want to say things like that, not necessarily just in a way to make themselves feel good. I don't really know their motivations, but it is a talking piece. It's something that people can have a conversation with people in their house. Um, or in their office. A lot of people like put these things in their offices that they have people coming in and they'll have like a placard or something at the bottom that says, what it was for and what it was bid for and what it went to. So having different sizes of pieces and things, I do a couple of things for these. I will actually decorate wine glasses. I go to ARC, which is a nonprofit within itself. I'll try to get pairs or quads of wine glass sets and I'll paint little cherry blossom trees on them, and then I sign the bottom with my little, like, chop that I have, which we talked about in another episode, and then I donate those, and people tend to pair those with a wine glass basket or something like that, where they can be, donated, and then your business information is shared. So
Hmm.
you typically will end up on their website. You'll end up in their thank you program. You will be on the physical display itself with, glasses donated by Tokyo Dog Designs or uh, painting donated by Tokyo Dog Designs. And then I always say, put your business card in it or behind it are glued to it.
Yeah.
So if they want more pieces, or if they're having a fundraiser and they want to see if you want to be involved with it, and
Yeah.
you give them an estimate price of what they, people should be bidding on it. So you can start elevating yourself as, instead of like, oh, well, my materials are $15, so maybe $15. I'll be like, one of the pieces that I donated was 75. No, I don't get that money. We need to be very clear about that. That money
Yes.
does not come to you. It goes to the nonprofit, but people kind of start seeing like a money idea in their head of like, oh, well, that's how much that should be. So that's how much this person's art is worth. So it's one of those things that if you go into it knowing that you're going to donate it, or if you have a piece that's not selling, it is a great opportunity to do a give back program. And then a lot of times we're invited to the event. We can attend for free, to go and talk about stuff and mingle and get people to come to the auction, because that's one of the things that you don't tend to have at these types of events, is people saying like, hey, have you had a chance to go by the auction table? Or people say like, oh,
Yeah.
what do you do? Oh, I'm an inventor. I did this thing with origami. I actually have a piece here, do you want to go see it? And it gets people into the auction area. So
Yeah.
and then sometimes you get a drink ticket, sometimes you don't, just depends on the day and if you're old enough. Um, but you get it displayed, and you get to be seen by all of these people that either
Yeah.
have means or have wealth or have influence. Those tend to be
Yeah.
the people that attend these types of things. And you also get to make friends within the community of the nonprofit. So, Heather, I'm actually going to turn it over to you a little bit to talk about the nonprofit that you've done a lot of work with all of your awards and accolades.
Yeah, well, and going back to what you were talking about, like, yeah, you don't get paid the money that they bid. Like, just to be very, very, very clear, you don't get paid the
Mhm.
money that they bid at the auction. That obviously goes to the nonprofit. How you're getting paid, quote unquote, is through the experience, through being there and meeting all those new people that you might never have been, in front of before. And like she said, having your gift card there, people might, or not gift card, sorry, your business card. People might
Business card.
feel weird about like, oh, but this is a nonprofit. I don't know if I want to put my information there. No, do it because you are like providing them with a service. Don't feel weird about that. Um, but yeah, the nonprofit that I work for, we make videos for it sounds weird to say videos for blind children, but we do. It's making a video out of children's books so that blind children can actually experience it in a way that seeing children can. We describe the pictures, we put it to music and everything like that. And it's just, I'm just gonna give it a shameless little plug here because it's like the best thing in the world. I love working for them. But it's so important. It can be very difficult. I've worked with several nonprofits actually, and it can be very difficult to like gather people to your cause. Do you know what I mean? Even if they know it's a good idea, they're like, yeah, of course, I would love if blind children could see books, but they can't, and this is how you can do it. I also worked at a homeless nonprofit. Like, I would love for everybody to have a home. Who wouldn't? Kind of thing. But it's very hard to bring people together to that. And when they have these auctions and they find um I was one of the people at the homeless nonprofit that went around to a bunch of businesses to get products from them for the silent auction. And like it's surprising actually how many people are hesitant. They're like, "Oh, I don't know how I'm going to do that." But the people that wanted to give products were like, "Please, what can I give you? What can I do? Like, I would love to be
What
there. I
dollar
want to
amount are you looking
support."
for? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Like and then the people that come to the auction are just like, "Oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Look at all these people." And it like I think humans are such funny creatures because the more we see like people being excited about things, the more we're like, oh, okay, yeah, I could get excited about this too. Like they look around and they see all these products that these businesses, are basically giving up. And they're like, oh my gosh, well, they believe in this. I could believe in this too. We're kind of silly that way. But it so like going to these nonprofits, there you're going to find one that you are passionate about because there's so many nonprofits that you can pick from. And like do your research, make sure they're a good one, but like they're all doing good things in this world.
Mhm.
And so you're not it's the feeling that you get just from helping them out and just from being, helping them like gather money and being at these events and stuff is is going to even surpass the fact that you're like, oh yeah, and I'm getting in front of all these people. You're like, oh my gosh, and I'm also helping, like, by doing this thing that I already love. So it's just all around good.
And one of the things to keep in mind is that people that attend these events will see that you're aligned with some of the things that they care about. So that's also a great talking
Yeah.
point. You know, it's like being in a bookstore and somebody else just picked up the same book you're picking up. Like, obviously, you have interests in the same idea, the same concept, and then you might start talking. Actually, I got interviewed at one of the things that I was at for one of the fundraisers I did with Ukraine, because I'm very obviously not Ukrainian. I think it's very obvious for people to see that I'm not Ukrainian, and the Ukrainian I speak sounds like a 2-year-old, or it's profanity. So I mean, I fit in just enough for that. But there was somebody who was from a local TV station that asked if they could interview me. And for those of you who know about the interview thing, I'm like, okay, I can do this. What are we talking about? I'm an introvert. Okay, you want me to answer questions? Okay, I can do that. You know, and I'm pulling myself together because I was like all talking to the person. I was like, "Oh yeah, this is great. This is what I'm out here doing." They're like, "Can we put you on camera?" I'm like, "Oh God, oh my heart,
Sure.
oh, it hurts already." And so they interviewed me and they were asking me questions like, "Okay, so you're not from Ukraine?" I was like, "No, I'm not." They're like, "You don't have any ties to Ukraine?" I was like, "No, I don't." And they're like, "Well, then why are you here?" Which sometimes I'm a little offended about because to me, I'm trying to help a country that doesn't even have medical supplies right now. We're raising money to get them medical supplies. So, you know, if I cut myself or if I have a heart attack, I can go, you know, to the ER or grab a Band-Aid. Like these people don't even have that option. So to me, I was a little taken aback. But somebody, a psychologist explained to me that, well, you're not a part of their culture, not a part of their group. Why would you help? That's what the question is.
Yeah.
And so I told them like, well, I really wanted to help. You know, I was on this interview. They're like, so what's your business about? What do you do? And I, you know, talked about it and showed them. They're like, so what would you say to other business owners that, you know, aren't involved in Ukraine at all on how they could help? I'm like, oh my gosh, one of the best ways you can do is just come down here and support. Just come down here, you know, you pay your $50 for your booth, you get to see all these people, put out some signs, hand out some flyers. Like it's a great opportunity to meet people and to know that, you know, this money is not just going to somebody that's just putting on an event. It's going overseas to help children who can't even get medical supplies.
Yeah.
And they put that on TV somewhere. I was told by somebody that it was seen on a local I didn't see it, but I did get people ironically calling and emailing me asking me if I would be willing to make some custom stuff about Ukraine that they could sell in their store. Absolutely, I can do that. So, you know, people reach out to you, whether or not it pans out is neither here nor there. It's traffic, it's people talking to you, and it's recognition. I was literally at the store the other day and they're like, "Oh, hey, I saw you at that Ukraine thing." I was like, "Oh, yeah, how's it going?" They're like, "It's so good. Do you know when they're doing another one? Are you doing any other events? I wanted to buy one of your pins, but you're out." I was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm doing this Christmas thing and this holiday thing and meh, 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 meh." Now again, the small scale because, you know, I live in a suburb of Denver. So it's not the same as if you lived in, like, New York, right?
Right.
But it's still it's exposure. And I've literally had businesses say, "I only work with other businesses that do nonprofit work." Like, "Oh, okay, cool. Well, I do a lot of nonprofit work." And if you really wanna get down to the money side of things, um, working with nonprofits that have their 501(c)(3), again, tax terminology, you don't have to memorize this, you can get somebody else who knows how to do this to do this for you. Those things that you donate are able to be deducted from your taxes.
Yeah.
So a piece that you have valued at $75, even if it doesn't sell for that or if it sells for more, you can take that to the 501(c)(3. They give you a little piece of paper and you're like, "Hey, tax person, here's a deduction because I don't want to pay you and I did a good thing."
Hmm.
So even if it's just for getting money off your taxes. Now there's a limit. I don't know what it is. That's not my
We are
department.
not tax people. We are not tax
Not
people.
tax people.
We have to
But
have that in flashing letters.
yeah, no tax advice here, but you can take it to your tax person and be like, "How much can we write off? This is what I did. Here's all the 501(c)(3) information." And then that's why they get paid money to do that side of things. Or you marry somebody who does that for you and you trust them. Not like in The Other Woman. That was like super sad and scary.
Good
Um,
Lord.
but there are ways to do it beyond just the altruism or the feeling of doing something good for another person.
Yeah. And it's totally worth it. As as many of nonprofits I've been involved in or events I've gone to, it's always such a positive experience. And you may have those moments where they're like, "What are you doing here?" Like Jade did, and like it's helping humanity. Like there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and they'll see that. So don't feel like, "Oh no, I really don't belong here." You do. And we're always happy that you're helping.
Yeah, I mean, I showed up the Ukrainian thing, nobody spoke English, and I still, like, made that bitch work, and a lot of the events that I do stuff with have to do with children. Now, I don't have children, maybe that's why I do those, maybe I have a soft spot, maybe my biology is kicking in, I don't know, but find something that you are passionate about, that you care about. If it's kittens, do some stuff with a local animal shelter. If it's the elderly, or if whatever it happens to be that speaks to you. I know there's a lot within the Pride and queer community that does things. I know there's a lot of things within special needs that we've talked about before with Heather. That she's done things within that because that is part of her world and her alignment. But find something that speaks to you, and it's so double fold. You get to do something good for other people, and you get to get your name out there and get some marketing and advertising, which is expensive. It's expensive, you guys. So if you can do it in a way that is free to you, or quote unquote free to you, and can help out somebody else, I don't see how that's just not a perfect win-win. So
Yeah.
be brave, contact people, get out there. And I know they'll be just so excited to hear from you. Somebody's going to love you.
Yep.
Well, thank you again for joining us today, and a special thank you to Nerdy Girl Podcast for producing this episode. We'll see you later.